जय हो, जय श्री राधे, श्री वल्लभाधीश की जय हो. हाँ जी, जय Shri Krishna. Today is the day 77, Varta 72, the story of Narahar Sannyasi, a god Brahmin who went to Gujarat from Agra. In the eternal Leela, Narahar Sannyasi is in the Shruti Rupa group of gopis, the daughter of Mansukh Lal named Gulabi. Gulabi also has one Sakhi and her name is Pandri. One Veni Kotari was born in Gujarat. There was a period of misfortune in Agra, and Narahari Sannyasi's father left Agra for Gujarat with his entire family. There it was that Narahari Sannyasi was born. When Narahara reached the age of 15, he came into contact with one sannyasi, and he also became a renunciate. They practiced severe austerities in every season of the year. In the summer, they sat surrounded by 5 fires. They stood under falling water in the rainy season, and they sat in cold water in the early mornings in the winter. Many people began to respect Narahara Sannyasis throughout Gujarat. Many people became his disciples. Veni Kotari was one of them. Narahara would always cover his head if a woman became visible. That is how renounced he was. He lived in a very lonely place, far from any village, on the banks of the Mahi river. There was a village 4 miles from there. In that village there lived a family of oil pressers who could not have children. The oil presser's wife decided to go to Narahara Sannyasi for help with herbs, so that she might bear a son, although she knew that he did not look at women's faces. She cooked fried breads and sweet pudding and went to his hut. She covered her head and called out to him. Narahari Sannyasi came out and said, "Who are you?" The oil presser's wife told him who she was and that she had brought some food for him. "I have covered my face knowing that you don't look at women," she said. Narahara Sannyasi that he had not eaten for 2 days, but today he have walked 4 miles to bring me something. He accepted the offering and the woman was very pleased. The next day in the evening she again came back with the same preparations. Narahara Sannyasi said to her that there was no one else there, and so she could open her veil. She did so, gave the food and left. She did the same thing every day for 10 or 12 days. One day she went inside his hut with the food, and at that very time the Muslim ruler of Gujarat, having heard Narahara Sannyasi's praises, came there to meet him. The woman hid inside Narahari Sannyasi's room. The ruler stayed the night there. In the morning the oil presser came to Narahara and said that his wife had come there the previous evening to bring him food, but that she had not returned home yet. "Why did you keep her here all night?" he asked. "You don't even look at women's faces." Narahara Sannyasi told him that she had not come there. The oil presser said, "What if I find her here?" He searched the house and found her inside. He pulled her outside. When the ruler saw all of this incident, he was enraged. He had Narahari Sannyasi's hut destroyed and sent him out of his kingdom. Narahara Sannyasi then travelled to Vraja. He said to himself that women were trouble and their company led to hell. "The Lord has punished me well," he decided, and continued to move around in Vraja. Veni Kotari heard that Narahara Sannyasi was in Vraja, and considering that he had not seen his guru for a long time, decided to also go to Vraja. They met in Sri Brindavan. They regularly discussed with each other. One day Sri Acharyaji came to Brindavan. Narahara Sannyasi caught sight of him and called Veni Kotari over, saying, "See how powerful and enlightened he seems to be." Veni Kotari suggested that they stay near him for some time so that they could get an idea of what he was like. They decided to both go and be near him. Thus, talking between themselves, they arrived at Sri Acharyaji's camp and went to bow to him. They asked if they could hang around there for a few days, if it so pleased him. Sri Acharyaji said, "I am thinking of soon going to Dwarkaji. Come with me if you would like." They both decided to go with him. On the way, Narahara Sannyasi asked Sri Acharyaji, "Please help me to understand whether the path of renunciation or the path of devotion is greater." Sri Acharyaji explained, "These two paths are quite different. In this age of Kali, the path of sannyas is very difficult to perfect. Once you have taken a vow of renunciation, if the mind so much as wanders for a second from the Lord, then all of your lifelong renunciation can be ruined. In the path of devotion, even if you fall down due to bad association, the seed of devotion in your heart can never be extracted. It will grow again once you have come back into good company. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is the story of Jarabharat, who had to pass through 3 whole births away from the Lord, but then he came back and was fulfilled. Because of the curse from Parvati, Chitraketu became Vritasura, and he was of demonic birth, but he became a devotee. These are some comparisons. In this age of Kali, even the lowest types of humans can be uplifted and purified. Just think, you performed so many austerities and you kept to your sannyasa path, but was anything achieved thereby? Hearing all of this, Narahara Sannyasi bowed to Sri Acharyaji. "Oh Maharaj, please tell me how I can be uplifted. I have only been saddened by all the practices I have done so far. My mind has not found purity." Sri Acharyaji said, "You are a renunciate and therefore the world should respect you. I expect my followers to serve the Lord. You are already a teacher. How will you embrace being a servant? You will have to give up being a Swami before you can become a servant of the Lord. Then only can you develop the path of a Vaishnava." Narahara Sannyasi answered, "I have given up the title of Swami. Please accept me as your servant. Please tell me what to do henceforth. I will do whatever you tell me." Sri Acharyaji advised him to cut off his beard and change his clothes from saffron to white. "Then you may become a servant." Narahari Sannyasi cut off his long locks and changed his cloth and came back. Sri Acharyaji told him to fast for a day, thus purifying his senses, and then he would initiate him. Narahara fasted, and the next day Sri Acharyaji initiated him with the Lord's name and Brahma Sambandha. Part 1. Narahara Sannyasi then requested Sri Acharyaji to initiate Veni Kotari. When Veni Kotari had bathed, Sri Acharyaji initiated him with the Lord's name and Brahma Sambandha. Narahara Sannyasi asked Sri Acharyaji why he had to fast before his initiation when Veni Kotari did not have to. Sri Acharya advised, "You were already a Swami and you had followed various paths. Your mind was extended in various directions. Kotari has only ever known the sufferings of family life and had nothing to do with karma or dharma, so he did not need to fast." Bhav Prakash. He had read lots of scriptures about other paths. He had performed many yogic and other practices. The path of devotion could therefore not come to him immediately. Bhakti comes much more quickly to an innocent through satsanga. Part 1 continued. Narahari Sannyasi soon developed into an accomplished devotee as he was a recipient of great grace. Veni Kotari also became a great devotee whose mind and heart were always engaged in contemplation of the Lord. After being in Dwarka, Sri Acharyaji set off to further his holy grace pilgrimage. Veni and Narahara spent some days in Dwarka together. Then Veni Kotari returned home to Gujarat. Narahari moved around from place to place. Part 2. One day, on his wanderings, Narahari came to Bhadrakashram. Sri Acharyaji also came there. Narahari had his sight and then asked him, "I was a sannyasi before. After that, by your grace, I entered the path of devotion. I know quite a lot about the path of renunciation, but very little about the path of devotion. Please instruct me." Sri Acharyaji said, "I shall now tell you the type of renunciation that is in the path of grace." And Sri Acharyaji composed his treatise, My Conclusions on Renunciation, Sannyasa Nirnaya, and taught it to Narahara Sannyasi. Through his hearing it, the principles of the path of grace became firmly established in his heart. He began to experience the pastimes of the Lord, and he remained absorbed in such contemplation. Sri Acharyaji continued on his journey. Narahara Sannyasi, now always absorbed in the bliss of the Lord's form, carried on with his travels. Thus Narahara Sannyasi was a recipient of Sri Acharyaji's great grace and a very accomplished Vaishnava. Thus concludes Varta 72, the story of Narahara Sannyasi, although there is, in reality, no end to his tale. Shiva Labhadisha ki jai. Aaj ke Anand ki jai. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Sab Vaishnavon ko Jai Shri Krishna. Radhe Radhe ji.